Hello. In this tutorial, we're going to create something called a little planet. It's kind of a fun technique that takes a panoramic image and turns it into a sphere. It is, you might consider it kind of a silly technique, but what it's going to do is it's going to make you understand where several things are at in Photoshop, including the polar filter, and how to resize an image with unconstrained proportions, and also how to use the smudge tool, the blur tool, the magic wand tool, how to do the eraser, content aware. There's several things that we're going to touch on briefly in this tutorial. It will not require a lot of layers. You're actually just use one layer. I have provided for you panoramic photos that I have found from the internet, and there's a folder of those available for you to choose from. I have chosen this as my panoramic image to use for an example. The first thing that you need to do is you need to unlock your background. The next thing that you need to do is we need to prepare the image for the polar filter. So we're going to do that by going to Image and then Image Size. And we're going to distort the size right now. It's telling me that it's 1025 pixels by 456 pixels. We need to uncheck this link right here, or excuse me, it is already unchecked. If you have lines, that means they're connected. If you do not have lines, that means they are not connected. We want to make sure that we can distort this image. We need to set the height to the same as the width. Okay, so the height is 456. We need to change that to 1024. So we're going to change that to 1024, and we get this blurry square. Okay, and then we're going to select OK. Next, we're going to rotate the image 180 degrees. So we go to Image Rotation, and 180 degrees. That's the first option on the menu. And this is what you should have at this point, an upside down, squished together square of what you've created. The next thing we need to do is apply the polar filter. So you're going to go to Filter, and then you're going to go to Distort, and then you're going to go to Polar Coordinates. Okay? And it's going to come up with a little dialog box that looks like that. And you need to make sure it should be already selected this way, but make sure it is rectangular to polar is the setting that you want. Okay? And then you're going to select OK. And there's our crazy little planet. So you can already see that. Now I have obviously some concerns because I've got this background that is a transparency. So so now at this point, we've got our little planet, and we're going to clean it up a little bit. I'm going to take the magic wand tool, and I'm going to, that's not going to work. I'm going to take the eraser tool, and I'm going to come down here, and I'm going to get this, and I'm going to select that area, and I'm going to edit, and let's see what happens if I fill it with the content aware around it. Not too shabby. Command D for deselect. So now you can see the sky took on some of that sky, and the ground took on some of that ground. I still have a dark line there. Let's go back and do this again. I'm going to hold down Shift so I get a straighter line this time. And again, I'm going to magic wand, select it, edit, fill, content aware. And I'm going to deselect it. Now, there's a pretty good blend there from left to right, and I think that actually works pretty good. So I don't think there's anything left to do with that. Your photo might be totally different. I did one previously that required me to really take out a big section so that circle really was preserved. I'm going to leave this one as it is, okay? I'm going to hold down this area. Now that I closed off that part right there, the magic wand is just picking up the exterior, and I'm going to edit, fill it with content aware. So what I should get is this clouds and sky appearance. And I do. I get that clouds and sky. Pretty cool. Command D. Some of the clouds are facing the opposite direction, and that's really okay. I still have this funny line though. Let's see if we can't do a few more magic wand settings on this to kind of break that line up so we don't have that line. So let's edit, fill it again with content aware. And, oh, it's going to pick up my planet at this point because now I'm too close to my planet, although I really like that. I really like that. It kind of makes it look like an island. I actually think that's not too shabby. That's a pretty cool looking design. Let's do it this way. Let's grab this eraser, and we don't even have to be real organized with our marks. Ew. As you can see. Let's select that. Again, just to get rid of this line. I normally would not leave that like that, but this turned out kind of cool. We're going to fill it, and let's again do content aware. It's made almost like this main island with all these little islands around it. I kind of think that's pretty cool. So we will leave that. I'm going to show you my other example though here in just a second so that you can see where yours might look more like a sky thing, where now mine almost looks like an ocean. But as long as I can see that you've made lots of edits and you've practiced with some of these tools, then that would be great. Real fast before we go to my other example, notice where some of these tools are at. We have under this teardrop thing, the blur, the sharpen, the smudge. You can use any of those. You can see that. I'm going to undo that. I'm going to bring my bracket down to make that smaller. But you can see how we can smudge some of that if we would choose to do so. In some instances, that might be cool. Blur, you can do the same. Bracket right or left to make it bigger or smaller. And I can blur an area, okay? So blur and smudge. Sharpen we'll talk about some other time. Of course, eraser, which we just used. We held down shift and made a straight line. Actually, let's go back to blur. And let's go from side to side on that. Maybe get rid of that line. Okay, that sort of worked. Eraser. The eraser can be in a block, a pencil, or a brush. I usually use a brush because I can right bracket it bigger or left bracket it smaller. The block just stays a block. If you ever need a completely straight line, you just hold down shift and drag it. I'm going to Command Z that. That was a horizontal, but I can hold down shift and then drag it vertically. I'm going to Command Z that. Obviously, when you're in brush mode, you could also affect the opacity and the flow. Okay, so I could be on a big brush, but let's say I just bring down the opacity. Okay, so still kind of like a faint erase there. I'm going to Command Z that. I could bring down the flow. And again, just a very subtle transparency there. Again, Command Z that. So there's a lot of things within the eraser tool that you have at your disposal to make it more specific. I can go in and I can actually choose a brush as the eraser. I can right bracket that and make it even bigger, and I could erase it in that way also. So I don't have to erase it just based on a circle, but when I'm in a brush, I can actually erase it in the shape of the brush. And I'm going to make this one bigger if it's going to let me. Oh, it's saying it's already there, which is kind of strange. I don't see it. Oh, there it is. So big it went off the screen. Okay, so we're going to erase that. So lots of choices, even just in the eraser tool that you may not have noticed. Okay. Content aware, we discussed that. That's actually filling what's around it. And we could rotate this, but I really like the way that it's already positioned. So I'm going to come back to the move tool. Let's get this saved, and I want to show you my other example, which is already done. I'm going to save this as brown. Hashtag, this assignment is number 9. Notice that it came in as a PNG. That means a transparent object. I want to save it to... First of all, I want to save it to the project number 9 little planets on my computer. You're going to save yours to your own folder, but I also need to save it as a Photoshop document, and that will preserve my work. So I save that. I want to, you know what, I already have another number 9, so let's just do that. And there we go. Now come over here and let's look at my other example real fast. And here's my first one that I did. And this looks like a real planet. Okay, so that's kind of like a floating sky, and here's my planet. This was like a cityscape. of like apartments and boats, like a marina. And there were some trees in there too. So this one turned out pretty cool. I really like both of them, but I like both of them for different reasons. So hopefully you will agree, and you can play around with it. You can do more than one of these because it doesn't take very long, and they look pretty sharp. So I hope you've enjoyed my information, and that you can find all that you need in this folder to do your, we have our examples here and my examples, and then we have panoramic photos to work with. So good luck with your little planet. Thank you.